I've got something special for you today. I have got my hands on the brand new Colosseum being reproduced by Fantasia Games. You may already have the Tasty Minstrel version or the Days of Wonder version, and I want to go through the differences and why I think you should be backing this one. First and foremost, obviously, is that it looks different. This is to be expected. The artwork is beautiful. It is by the Mico, and so you will see lots of beautiful characters in the game, as well as all of the performances now have beautiful artwork on them. Every single one of them, aside from the visual aspect, is of course also the board changes. You'll notice that there is now one Colosseum instead of multiple Colosseums. That makes a lot more thematic sense. And so instead of you building out your own arenas, we're all going to have these gates into the Colosseum that basically represent that the nobles are coming to visit our section of the Colosseum that we've kind of sponsored, you know, our box seats, our best seats kind of thing. Of note with this board, there is not a round tracker because you can actually play both the original rules, which is a 5-round game, and these newer rules, which is actually a 4-round game. And so that's another huge difference. Also, this is going to support 1 to 6 players instead of 3 to 5 players. Additionally, we also have a player board that's new, and it's going to show you all of the different performance tiles that are in the game and the amount of them that exist, as well as a reminder of all of the extra scoring mechanics that exist in the game. We still have each previous performance gives you 5 points. We still have the star performers giving you 4 points, and we still have the emperor, the consul, and the senator giving you 7, 5, and 3 points. However, instead of season tickets, we now have patrons. There is no limit to the amount of patrons that you can get. However, with only 4 rounds in the game, you're only going to be able to eventually get to having 4 of them if you bought 1 per round. Slight change is that instead of medals and emperor's tokens, we now have Aquilas tokens. These serve the same purpose as the ones previously, where you can cash them in for $6, 1 to 3 movements of the nobles, or use them to increase your score. Like I said, this plays over 4 rounds instead of 5 rounds. Those round phases still remain the same. First up is investment. Now, the big change here is that with the new rules, you can invest in 2 items that are different instead of 1 item period. These items are still the same, where you can invest in a new performance. All of them are now available on display around the entire central board. However, there currently is not a player aid. It's undetermined if there will be one, so that you're not kind of sneaking a look at them and people find out what you're doing. When investing, instead of an Emperor's Loge, we now have the Temples of Fortuna. Now, there is a key difference when it comes to the later phases here that will explain why the Temples of Fortuna change things. You'll notice that we have 2 dice. These dice are also numbered instead of Roman numerals. However, they are working on some Roman numeral dice. When we go to do our performance, you'll actually roll 2 dice and move 2 nobles or 1 noble, the sum of the dice. Temple of Fortuna will now make that a range instead of using the exact number on the dice. So in the previous versions, the loges, the Emperor's Loge would add a second dice so that you could roll 2 dice. This time, you always roll 2 dice, but you add a range to them instead. And as mentioned, instead of season tickets, you now have patrons that you can buy. Then we move on to the bidding phase. This phase remains largely the same. It uses the same rule adaptation as the Tasty Minstrel version, where you can win more than 1 bid, as long as it's not the same bid on the same player's turn. That is indicated by this lovely new pillar. It will remain on your board until you have left out of the bid, and then you're going to place it down into the board to signify that you have passed for that round. After that round has finished, where the active player has chosen to either pass or has won a bid, everyone will get their pillars back and can then bid on the next round. When it comes to the tiles, all of them remain the same, with the exception that the Aquilas and the bonus building action tile no longer exist in the streamlined version of the game. However, the game does come with these tiles so that you can play with the original rules instead. The special tiles in the new streamlined version are the Balatro, which is a wild performer of any type. However, it does not help you gain the star performer, and an Aquilas token. Bidding still costs a minimum of 8 coins to enter the bid, so if you don't have the money, you will automatically be passed on your turn. As with all the previous versions of the games, if you have at least 3 of a performer type, as well as the majority around the table, you get the star performer. The star performer still counts as +4 in your score, as long as they are in the performance. Then we move on to the trading phase. The main difference here is that you can promise things in the future and break your promise just to make it a little bit more competitive and angsty around the table. Now let's go on to the Grand Spectacle. This is where we're going to perform our performances. Here it remains largely the same, except like I said, you're going to roll 2 dice and you're going to decide whether or not you want to move 1 or 2 of the nobles. So this noble I can move 1 to 3. 1, 2, 3, and now they're in my gate. Of note, when you are moving your nobles, you will no longer share the same space. You will actually skip over them, so this will be 1, 2, and 3. As well, if you have your Temple of Fortuna, these become a range instead. So if I had rolled something different, instead of picking one of these to roll move 4 and one of them to roll 5, or one of them to roll 9, I could then instead roll 1 to 4, 1 to 5, or 1 to 9. The game still uses the highest score mechanic, so only your best performance matters. The person who put on the best performance that round is going to get a gift from the Emperor instead of a podium. This still adds a +3 to your score. The same as the other games, the person in the last place gets to steal a token from the person in the first place. However, before that stealing happens, everyone who did a performance is going to discard one of the items from their performance. That's the major difference between all the versions. There are some net new things as well. We talked about this will actually have a solo version, a 2-player version, and just announced there's also going to be able to go up to 6 players. You are also going to be able to upgrade a lot of the bits. So the deluxe version comes with wooden bits. You can upgrade to resin packs, which are a little bit heftier and a lot more detailed. You can also upgrade the performance tokens into wooden tokens. The dice themselves are already upgraded and have this nice marble texture to them and good weight to them. There's of course metal coins. There is a new module that you can play called the Lion Rampant version, which is actually going to add a little bit more take that into the game, even though I love the balance it currently has. That model is also going to be custom painted because of the stretch goals. Speaking of stretch goals, the patrons can also now be screen printed, and who knows what else is to come. We still have 2 more weeks left. Make sure that you go ahead and back this today. I'm super excited for it. I backed it on day 1. Thank you to Fantasia for providing this prototype copy. Everything is subject to change. That's that. We will see you next time.